Go ahead, Ron. Go ahead, Ron.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chad. I'd like to go ahead and call the November 13th Resource Conservation Commission meeting to order at 6:35. We have a quorum. Like I mentioned, hopefully Chris will be joining us shortly. Andrew probably will not make the call tonight. And I will be timekeeper until Chris gets on. Looks like there's no one in the audience for any public appearance on non-agenda items. So we can move on to item 3, approval of the minutes. Is there a motion the motion to approve the draft minutes from October 9th, 2023?
So moved.
I'll second.
Kim seconds. Okay. Discussion.
On 5B, actually the people who attended that meeting were Chris, Josh, Ben, and me.
The meeting with Todd?
Yep. Kim
Okay.
was not in the meeting.
Okay. I'll fix that.
Okay. Any other discussion? If no further discussion, let's take a vote on approving the meeting minutes. All in favor of approving the draft minutes from October 9th, 2023, say aye and raise your hand. Aye. All those opposed? None opposed. Meeting minutes are approved. Okay, before we jump.
I don't know if it needs to be said, but I abstain as I was not part of that meeting.
Okay, great. Yeah, that should be noted. Okay, before we move on to the for agenda items for new business, we have a new commission member on board. Welcome, Jim. We'll do a quick introduction of ourselves, but let's hear about you first. Just give a short introduction.
Sure. James Tingham, Jim. I'm a professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, director of the Geological Engineering Program, primary research and outreach in sustainable energy technologies, proud faculty member that produced students, graduates such as Phil Gruppe and Chris and many others. So don't blame me. They turned out successful despite me. I am particularly doing significant research on district scale geothermal exchange systems, working at Ford Motor Company in Memphis, Tennessee on their new battery facility with geothermal exchange, West Point and the Detroit Arsenal. So just some of my professional interests are highly efficient heating and cooling district scale systems using the earth as a thermal battery. So that's one of my passions and my outreach.
Oh, wow, that's pretty interesting.
I'd like to add that Professor Tingham presented to one of RCC's outreach events maybe 3 years ago.
That would have been pre-COVID, so a little bit before that.
Okay, did a nice job. It's very interesting.
Thank you.
Okay, Diane, you want to go ahead?
Diane Streck. I've been on this commission, I think, since dinosaurs roamed this planet. I'm past chair. I'm a CPA. Very interested, obviously, in the environment.
Thanks, Diane. Kim?
Hi, I'm Kim Workentine, and I've been on the commission, I think, since 2013, somewhere around there. I also am on the outreach committee for the commission, and I work at Wisconsin Land and Water Conservation Association doing youth education programming. So my interests are obviously in youth education, but also the school program that we've started, recycling milk cartons in Madison, and anything to do with recycling and plastics.
Great. Thank you,
Welcome.
Gabriella?
Hi, Jim. I'm the Alder rep for the RCC, and you saw me back at the council meeting a couple weeks ago. Really happy to have you join us. My background, I'm actually a background is in geology. Way back when I did some graduate work at UW for a little while. But in my current iteration, I'm a nonprofit work. But I have been on the council for almost 4 years now, and my focus since the beginning has been sustainability and climate change preparedness. So I was a big advocate for getting the sustainability plan, made sure we had funding secured for that. And I've been on this committee for all 4 years and I've really loved it. I'm really happy to have you join us.
Great, thanks, Gabriella. Ben?
Sure. So I'm one of the staff contacts for this commission, along with Phil Groupie. Been with the city for about 1.5 years now as the environmental engineer. I'm a UW GLE graduate. Interests are generally in stormwater, energy efficiency, sustainability, the whole gamut.
Great. Thanks, Ben. Phil?
You're getting Jim. It's been a few years. Since you last saw me, which I think was probably when I was in grad school, I spent a handful of years doing energy efficiency. I've been with Fitchburg for the last 4 years as the sustainability specialist. So as Ben mentioned, we both staff this committee. Ben does most of the agenda handling, and I take minutes. Overseeing the sustainability plan that Gabriella mentioned, and a number of other things. It's sort of the, I guess we all sort of wear a million different hats, but I'm just sort of the sustainability angel over everybody's shoulder, trying to push them a certain direction.
Great, thanks, Phil.
Good to see you again.
Chris joined us. Chris, we're just doing an overview introductions. You want to go?
Sure. Hello, Professor Tinjum. Welcome to the RCC. We have a little bit of background working with each other over the past several years. One of the first times we worked together actually was on inviting him out to talk about renewable energy at a RCC forum event. This was probably 6 or 7 years ago, but he's now in the department that I came from way back in the late 90s. The UW-Madison Geological Engineering and Geology. And so excited to get a chance to work with you. I'm a past chair, and you know what I do during my day job as a solid waste engineer, as we've crossed paths in that arena as well. So welcome.
Thanks, Chris. And Jim, I'm the Ron French. I'm the chair of the commission. I'm serving my second term as the chair. My background is in aquatic ecology. Been doing that for the last 30 plus odd years. I have my own veteran-owned business, environmental consulting business here in Fitchburg. And I really have been enjoying the working with the city, working with the commissioners, and helping promoting sustainability and environmental conscious efforts to make Fitchburg a great clean city and keep it that way and as we go into the future. So glad to have you on board and look forward to your input.
Thank you, everyone, for all those introductions.
Great.
And I guess Fitchburg is the place to go for GLE alums.
Yeah.
And
All right,
geoscience.
Well, now we can move on to business. So moving on to agenda item 4, new business. 4A, a draft 2023 annual report. Ben, you want to give us an update on that, and we can have a discussion about the things in the report?
Ben, I think you're muted if you're trying to speak.
I sure was. All right. I think you should all be seeing the draft report on your screens now.
Yep.
So this is, a real rough draft. Just kind of wanted to bring it to the commission at this point to get kind of feedback and just some input as far as what everyone would like to see included on this annual report for the year. If we want to just start with the events, I think I've got these nailed down. We had our PFAS and water quality event earlier in the year, the e-bike event, which was very well attended and a great success. The 2 recycling day events, the annual waterway cleanup, and then
Hey, Ben,
yep.
can we put in that for the e-bike? Do we know how many people attended?
Yeah, I believe I've got a copy of the
It'd be nice just to include the number of attendance.
check-in list. All right, I'll make a note of that.
Okay.
So we'll include the total number of attendees there. And then last was the bring your own bag event. I think that covered all the events.
Yeah, there's a typo right there in the that bring your own bag where it says brought. It should be brought reusable bags. Third line down.
Yeah, that's not a word. Okay. We'll get that fixed.
Yeah, I'm just overall, it might be nice just to put in the number of attendances so we have that number.
Yep, we'll do.
Okay.
So those are the events. The rest of it pretty much is, I just highlighted things that I didn't change from last year's annual report. This was kind of focusing on the Swan Creek monitoring station. If you recall, last year we had added some different pollutants that they were going to be measuring. So we added in the dissolved phosphorus as well as total phosphorus and nitrates and chloride. So that was kind of a last year thing. They're still doing that this year, and that will be the plan for 2024. To take samples of the same pollutants. I know, Ron, you've still been volunteering,
Yep.
From what I understand. So, and keep that.
Ben, did we increase the funding this year, or should that just say continued funding?
I suppose just continued funding. It did get more expensive, but there was no change in the scope from last year to 2024
Well, I mean, we
Ryan?
did increase the budget. We added that phosphorus and nitrate funding. We added it last year, but it was for this calendar year. So I think technically it's the budget for this calendar year was the first time it's been higher.
Okay.
for 2023, right? Okay, yeah, no, I see. Yep, that makes sense. Yep, so we can keep that as increased.
Yep.
Ron, maybe you could give just a 1 minute overview on the Swan Creek monitoring station, just so Professor Tinjum understands
Sure.
kind of what we're doing there and kind of what we're trying to figure out.
Yeah, Jim, we're working. The city is working cooperatively with the town of Dunn, the Lake Wabisa Conservation Association, and the Friends of Wabisa Wetlands, and the USGS, and help monitoring the water quality in Swan Creek as it flows into Lake Wabisa. So we have a real-time station, USGS gauging station out there collecting flow data and collecting these chemical parameters, collecting data that for real time. Some of the events like the phosphorus and nitrogen and or dissolved phosphorus are only being collected at certain times a year, primarily during rainfall events. So USGS has been gathering that data, and we had a presentation by last July by Todd Stuttenbeck on the data, what it's been showing, and then hopefully this next year he'll give us another update on what that data is showing. Now that he probably has 2 years worth of data under his belt, so. But ideally, the one main program for that station is essentially to monitor activities in the city of Fitchburg as it relates controlling stormwater and see if we're doing a good job or not with our BMPs and controlling stormwater runoff into Swan Creek.
Yeah, and it's it's kind of an interesting creek to sample from, just with how much development there is going on. There's been some Terravessa, for example, a large subdivision. There's the Hartung Fields plat, residential commercial, that is slated to be constructed in that watershed, as well as just some smaller kind of apartment projects going on. So long term, it should give some really interesting data and feedback as far as what is what we're doing working, where how could we improve, things like that.
Yeah, I think tentatively what it shows, some of the phosphorus levels are actually lower, just probably because a lot of more of the more impervious areas are being developed, and less land application of phosphorus because of those impervious areas.
Right. Yep. Less agricultural input.
Right.
Also on here is just the continued partnership with Yahara Winds. So they provide the adaptive management program services. This is in relation to the Rock River TMDL. The city has not shown, with water quality modeling, to meet the reductions, the pollutant loading reductions required by the Rock River TMDL. To offset that, the city partners with Yahara Winds, who completes primarily agricultural projects, installation of kind of buffer zones, other different kind of best management practices used on farm fields, really aimed at reducing the phosphorus from agricultural inputs. So that partnership continues. Going on to solid waste, refuse and recycling. So again, I didn't change this, but if Kim or Chris, I think, could probably provide a good couple sentences of a more kind of up-to-date briefing of where things stand on the recycling program. I know it's expanded since last year, so I think we could include some additional information on that topic as well. Then just some of the other
for
stuff.
sure, we can add some updates there.
Okay, yeah, great. Yeah, and if anyone, please feel free to email me updates, or if you think of something that you would like included on this report, you can just email me and we'll get it into the report for next meeting when we discuss it again. Other things, we've got the City Hall holiday string light collection that's ongoing. So again, I'll have to change this once that closes down at the end of the year. Again, this is another thing kind of with Chris and Kim. I don't know if there was another food waste audit this year, or if this could be removed.
I think we had some in the spring. We haven't had any in the fall for sure, but there are. I can update that one too.
Okay.
There is some composting pilots going on at the Madison schools right now. So, but we're not terribly involved in it. So, unless it's happening at a school where Fitchburg students are going, it's probably not worthy of getting onto this bullet list.
Sure. And then this Dane County Trash Lab, that was a holdover from last year, so I'll have to remove that. I think another thing that could probably be added is some of our discussions from the past meeting, and what we'll be discussing a little bit later on tonight is just, I guess, looking at curbside recycling, brush, yard waste pickup ahead of the 2024 RFP for solid waste services. So I know we've had some kind of discussions on that, what things that maybe we would like to see done differently. So I think that's another thing that could be added on there.
Also, Ben, you might want to add that you distributed recycling information to the new residents or the expanded Fitchburg residents.
Right. Yes, that'd be a good one to add as well. Energy conservation and renewable energy initiatives. I don't recall doing too much with the idling reduction campaign. I know we had some signs out at the recycling events, and I've got to order some new signs yet this year. But I don't know if there's anything else we would want to say about that, or if we want to remove it.
No, I don't think we've done anything else. It's still just sort of the passive educational campaign. We do still have a idling reduction requirement in the staff manual, but in terms of community-wide initiatives, it's only those signs.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. We probably need a couple more signs for the recycling events.
Yep. So we'll
Definitely need
get,
one at the
and
spreader.
We've talked with Mark about that.
Okay.
we've got the progression of the citywide sustainability plan. I know that was a topic at I think the sustainability focused meeting. There's an opportunity to meet with Pale Blue Dot, and of course before that work on the RFP before it went out. Maybe Phil, is there anything else you would like to add on that topic?
I can send you some language outside of the meeting, but yeah, I could give a little bit more detail if we're interested, just to sort of what stage we expect to be at through the end of the year.
Okay, great. And then this was 2022, the
I was going to say,
solar farm, so I'll get rid of that.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd want added to the energy conservation and renewable energy initiatives? Move on.
I don't know if it applies here. Would be any electric vehicles that we're getting, mentioning those, or?
Yeah, so I thought about that. We did get 2 EV Ford Lightnings for Public Works, but I think we tend to do items in here that are RCC is at least a contributing agent in them, and I think that even my role in getting those EVs was somewhat limited. They kind of had the push they needed, and they took the initiative to do it, which is fantastic. Yeah, I don't think I'd include that in the RCC report.
Okay. Would that be the same thing for the e-bikes as well? I mean, e-bikes.
Well, no, because that was an RCC event.
No, I mean the rental bike.
That would be, I think, a good thing to put in to include.
We could throw that in there.
Yeah.
Let's say if you were doing the racy model, RCC was at least consulted a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
I will say for the electric vehicles, though, I do think that our overall like pushing over the years towards hybrid electric, I think that makes a difference. Even though it wasn't a specific agenda item, I think the advocacy helps.
I'm happy to be convinced that it's worth including. But yeah, we do have 2 electric vehicles as of this. They went into service this summer.
Nice.
News outreach. I think I've got these articles accurately listed so far.
Ben, you're missing February and March. Actually, if you send me a Word document, I'll just add those too.
Okay.
Yeah, I may not. We'll have to see. We can talk about how we want to handle March, because that's the one that was written by a couple of external people that just used the RCC name.
That's what I thought. Was that
It was about like fitness?
Fitness.
The March one, Chris coordinated, and it was done through
Okay.
Chris.
Got it. Okay.
And then just some general kind of Fact TV programming that was included. So they stopped by and for the waterway cleanup event and ran some of that on their channel. Got a little push for Stormwater Week. Had an interview for that. Pushed out some some kind of general best practices and some of the opportunities with native plants, rain barrels that were discounted during that event. The typical recycling shred event information that is shared through Fact TV. Some of the leaf-free streets information has been pushed through social media and Fact TV as well this year. And then come December, we can probably start kind of focusing on the Saltwise information, getting some of that out. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Then we've got the RCC subcommittees. So I'll need to update this. Is there anything off the top of anyone's head?
Well, I think we can get rid of recommending all the COVID discussions now.
Right.
Past us.
We can give a little bit of an update on, I can work on that one too.
Okay. And then just other committee involvement. So we've got Green Tier Legacy. That's Phil. Green Tier Clear Waters, myself. Sustainable Leaders Collaborative, Phil. Yahara Winds. Got the Lake Wabisa Lake Management Plan Steering Committee that I'm on. The Badger Mill Creek Stakeholder Group that I'm involved with. And then the Dane County Environmental Council looks like it was retired, so probably can get rid of that one.
Mhm.
Any other involvement that people would want to see included on here?
Ben, what's the committee that you and I talked about after we had our discussion with Allison that you're on, that's kind of a collaborative, primarily has dealt with leaf-free or phosphorus, but maybe she can get
sure.
some result.
Sure, that's the MAM swap group, or the Madison area stormwater group. So this is kind of every municipality that has an MS4 permit in Dane County is kind of grouped together under one permit, and we can share resources specifically for outreach, public education, those kind of things. So yeah, I think MAM swap would be a good group to add on there.
Okay.
I can't think of any other ones.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll make some of the changes that we discussed, and then I think I'll be getting some back. And Diane, I guess I can just send a Word file to the group, and people can feel free to make updates and send back, and I'll kind of get it put together. And we'll talk about this again at the January meeting.
So we'll finalize it in January? Is that the plan?
Well, I think it's kind of tentatively the plan, but thinking back, I want to say we finalized it in February this year. So if there's still some things we want to change come the January meeting, I think it's okay if we have it on the agenda again for February.
I think we should maybe target to try to finish it in January if we can.
I think that's
Yes.
usually what we aim for. But if there are any edits asked for in January, then we'll bring it back for a final review in February.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Ben. Okay, moving on to the agenda, item 4B, draft 2024 calendar events. Ben, you're back up again.
Yep. So I still got the screen up there. Pretty much all I did was update the date here. Again, wanted to kind of get some feedback from the group before making too many changes. As far as the ongoing yearly efforts, I think everything that was on there last year is
So good.
pretty accurate, pretty good to include. I don't know if there's anything else jumping out for people.
Can't think of anything. I just know if our RCC focus for 2024 should change.
Mhm.
No longer the dark sky ordinance.
Well, I was thinking about that one, and I think it's going to be a little bit more of a longer process, but I think it could still be a focus. I mean, I would like to get that ordinance completed.
So what do we need from council to motivate us to do that then? We gotta have their permission, correct?
Right. So I've got to put together a memo, and get that out to administration and the council, and hopefully it'll be well received.
Okay.
And if they're okay with it.
Maybe not just, maybe it can just go to the mayor, or maybe have a discussion with the mayor and get her okay.
Sure.
It'd be worth clarifying because I know we talked about the need for the council needs to approve something before staff works on it. But maybe if a memo could be included as part of the agenda packet for council under the RCC agenda item, maybe we could discuss it. We've never done that before, but I don't see any reason why we couldn't. But something to think about. Maybe discuss it with Chad, and but I'd be happy to help explain or cover the memo.
And that would be the same for the ice melt on sidewalks and things like that.
I think we need to I think that we need guidance on how we get the approval to work on ordinance changes, but based on conversations that I've had, I think that we should try to eliminate the ordinance verbiage for salt reduction.
Should it
So
be more
maybe-
stressed on
maybe just-
education, Diane?
Pardon me?
Education?
Yeah, maybe just say continue education on reducing salt use.
Okay, sure. Makes sense.
And then I don't know about the last bullet under there, and that's do you have, does council know that you're working on that?
Well, I briefly discussed it with administration. The intent was to include some phosphorus requirements in the ordinance as it kind of pertains to the Rock River TMDL. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere. It may not even really be necessary. I did kind of, the idea would be, so like right now, we've got these standards. Pretty much any new development needs to have total suspended solids reduction of 80%. In going back and looking at some of these other projects that have occurred in the city or other places, if a site meets that 80% standard, it's probably also meeting the phosphorus standard that's indicated in the TMDL document. It's like it depends on the different reach shed. So Swan Creek has a different phosphorus standard than Nine Springs Creek, which has a different phosphorus standard than what drains into Lake Mendota. So the idea would be to add a separate percentage for phosphorus into the ordinance, but it seems like people are already hitting that requirement without having an ordinance. So maybe it may not be that big of a benefit to include it, but it's still something I'm kind of working through.
Okay. Well, it's certainly a worthwhile project as long as we can reduce the anything that we can do to reduce the phosphorus would be great.
Yeah.
Anything else for 2024 that people would like to see included as a focus?
I wanted to raise the issue. I brought this up at one of our previous meetings about the multifamily housing recycling event. This is something that we've done in the past. And we had a RCC member who that was something that they kind of tried to take the lead on. It takes a lot of effort just because of the management of the, trying to get in touch with the management of the apartment buildings, as well as, figuring out who takes care of the recycling and trash. So I guess I know we have a lot of other events on our list to pull off. And I guess I just want to raise the question to Chris from the outreach committee, if he feels like that is something we have the capacity to pull off this year. I know we had talked about, doing another event at the Boys and Girls Club, which I think makes a lot of good sense. So I just wanted to raise that question because it is a lot of work to make that happen.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Kim. Just kind of thinking through, we have the RFP next year, and based on looking through the meeting packet, there's definitely some things that stand out, in terms of Fitchburg. So I think really dialing in kind of our from the solid waste perspective, trying to really dial in and get that RFP just right. I think we're always going to be trying to see what we can do to help improve recycling outreach and overall recycling accuracy of our residents, not necessarily, just the multifamily, but across the community. And then I think the other kind of, issue that's raising in Dane County is food waste reduction is, another one that, so, I think, kind of want to incorporate all that, but, I guess give us a little bit more flexibility than just multi-family recycling. Because we haven't really had that as a true focus area for a while, but, trying to dial into where our right solid waste focus should be. So
yeah, and I know I think one of our last outreach meetings, we did talk about the food waste issue as something that we wanted to pursue as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an opportunity to potentially pilot and potentially have people bring food waste to like the Fitchburg Farmers Market and then get that composted and just kind of, get a little sense. I'd like to talk maybe a little bit more with Dane County and see what information would be valuable for kind of their overall county efforts. But would love to, potentially do some of the things that Sustain Dane is doing at some farmers markets in Madison, in Fitchburg, and maybe not, the whole summer like they do, but maybe we can do a test drive for, a month or something like that.
Okay, so I'll edit that, improve multifamily recycling, and maybe make it a little bit more general and or more focused towards kind of the food waste reduction.
Food waste reduction, yeah, reduction, not production.
Right. Okay.
Well, perhaps Professor Tinjum has some ideas on the solid waste management front, as well as some, just with his experiences in Fitchburg.
So just repeat the question, Chris, what specifically?
Yeah, I guess, in terms of we're trying to figure out different focus areas for our solid waste management programs within Fitchburg. And one of the big things we have coming up this year is, an RFP. Our solid waste RFP with our waste hauler is coming up, and so there's probably some adjustments and some things that we want to do to that. But just from your perspective, and you don't have to have anything yet, but what would be some nice things that we could potentially focus in on in terms of solid waste management, food waste reduction, recycling, anything in that arena that you're seeing kind of from your perspective as a resident so far?
Yes. So, many of you probably know that Dane County is moving towards a sustainability campus as part of their future landfill expansion. I'm sure that they're looking for partners down the road, customers, municipalities and similar. So, just one thing down the road is making sure that we're partnering or communicating with Dane County so that we can have a part of that sustainability campus, whether that means mattress recycling facility or whatever the case may be. That's some of the things coming down the road where Dane County is really leading efforts on solid waste management towards sustainable circular economies. And so that's just one thing down the road. As far as organics in landfills and where organics diversion and things like that, sorry, Chris, you stoked my area of research and interest. And
well, just as a reminder, we're 10 minutes over past time, so.
So I'll just say that how we handle organics is an evolving area where they should be most effectively managed. Obviously, minimization is a strong approach, but how we manage life cycle says yet.
Yeah, and there's some emerging technologies that I've heard about as well that are somewhat interesting. The black soldier fly is one that I want to see how that evolves over the next several years here. But yeah, we can certainly. I just want to have a little bit more flexibility with that. But I do agree with Professor Jim that we should be working on that relationship with Dane County. I know that they've probably reached out to Ben and Phil and probably have made that connection, but Professor Jim and myself also work very closely with Dane County. I don't know if they have kind of the full picture that we're all kind of working on the same team here from RCC. So that would be, I think, helpful for them to understand and, see if we can elevate our role as a partner in some of the efforts that they're trying to tackle currently.
Absolutely, great. We'll get that added onto there, and we'll speed up a little bit here just to keep with time. We don't have to go through these in complete detail. Again, January. I think this is kind of outreach event discussion, getting things planned, picking dates for different events, getting that stuff finalized. And again, we'll be talking a little bit more about the 2024 annual event. So, again, this stuff is just kind of held over from the previous year. Maybe we would want to do one of these things for the annual event. We'll see. And then just some, selecting some dates again for the waterway cleanup, talking through some of that. Anything else in January? Can you move on here?
I just want to remind folks about, we came up with several good ideas for the annual event in previous meetings, so it might be wise to revisit some of those ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. I know there's been some good ideas floated around, so we can certainly rehash. February. Kind of got an update on the school cafeteria recycling programs, just kind of some solid waste outreach stuff. Phil, I've got some energy benchmarking. It seems like February is kind of a energy focused meeting.
Dan, what about that vegetation management plan? Is that something you need to stay on?
That can be removed. So that's
Okay.
that contract's all set for the next few years.
Maybe the first bullet probably could be removed also.
Yes, yeah, I would agree. March, we've got some announcements for our annual events. Talking about doing a BYOB event. I know Kim has been working on that and getting it, trying to get it to be a statewide event. So, maybe that'll be something for later next year.
Kim, didn't you say July was the event the month that you're targeting?
No, we did not set a month yet with the group that I'm working with yet. So we've got
Didn't you mention that July was like no plastics day or something like that?
yeah, I had mentioned that, but I don't have buy-in from everyone on that.
Oh.
I had just mentioned that as a possibility.
Okay.
So we've got another meeting coming up. So hopefully I can get some input from everyone on that.
All right. I guess big one in March is the next cycle's CIP. So we'll get a chance to look at what's planned for our big CIP projects. I'll leave this dark sky ordinance. I think it'll be good to touch on it in March. I think that's probably about the right time. Talk about our MS4 report. Can keep this Fitchburg Star article schedule on here, and then update on sustainability plan. I figure there'll probably be a few check-ins with the Pale Blue Dot team. Phil, I guess correct me if I'm wrong, but I would anticipate probably having that at a couple or a few different meetings in 2024.
Yeah, there will be at least one, probably two more presentations to RCC. I'm not sure the timing on that. Of course, one when everything is done. I'm guessing there would be one in May or June. June, I think, is the last, is slated to be the last planning team meeting. So sometime around then might be when there's sort of a draft report brought to RCC. I don't think it would be before April.
Okay. All right. So we'll get that. Whoop, you're muted.
In terms of the meetings when we cover the sustainability plan, I typically we do discussion items. They're like 10 to 15 minutes on the agenda. But for something like the sustainability plan, it'd be great if we could block off like 40 minutes so that we know that we have time for actual like deep discussion. Because we always get those situations where we have to move on, and this is the type of thing that I think we should really dig our teeth into. So, that would be my suggestion for when those items come up.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's a very important item for us.
Yep, absolutely. We'll block off a big chunk for those discussions. I suppose we'll also have, I think at the January meeting, but another update on the police services facility. They weren't quite able to get stuff prepared for this month's meeting, so we'll circle back on that in January.
I think the election of the chair and the vice chair is every 2 years.
Yeah, that comes.
You can eliminate that.
I'll get that out of there.
And probably the third quarter Fitchburg Star that can come out of May, because you've got that 2 months earlier we won't be doing the third quarter in May. Sure.
Again, just some stuff related to the BYOB event. I know that'll be kind of, we'll see how it plays out when it makes sense to do that.
Hey, Ben, does the Pelletier contract expire this year or the next year?
It is, it basically expires December 31st of 24.
Okay. So somewhere later in the year, we might want to have discuss that.
Actually, probably earlier when we're sending out the RFPs.
Yeah, it'll be earlier because it'll probably be a summer RFP. So there's plenty of time for any kind of questions or
Maybe,
reviewing
maybe-
proposals.
maybe Ben, RCC should brainstorm with you on things that we want or don't want in the RFP in March or May. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think even March, sooner the better for 2024, maybe even February, just to get ahead of it.
Yeah, whichever month there's time to do that. And then if based on the previous RFP, they usually come back in July, if I'm thinking correctly. So we would discuss them again in August.
Yeah, I think that would make sense.
Okay.
Okay.
So June, we've got another kind of big item, the operating budget. We'll have time to discuss that. We'll see. We'll figure out what months make sense for the sustainability plan meetings, and I'll coordinate that with Phil.
Maybe you can have Phil's, the months that you two skip, one of you skips 1 month, one of you skips the other month. Maybe you can kind of make the sustainability plan meeting the one that you don't attend, Ben, and Phil takes that one. I was just thinking ahead because in September, I think it's pretty important that you not miss the September one. That's when the solid waste rates are set.
Right.
So the timing for you to be somewhere else, miss a different meeting.
Correct. No, I totally agree. I'll be at the whatever month it ends up being. If it's August or September, or October, I'll be at that.
Okay.
Did I miss anything here? July.
Do you have dates for the shred event for next year and recycling and the e-cycle? Have those
We
been set?
don't yet. Nope, not yet. We still need to talk about that.
It's August. I do have the 2025 solid waste collection rate in here for August. I think we'll see. I'll have to reach out to Todd with USGS and see when a good time for him to have his presentation on the monitoring station. If you'd want to do that in August or if there's a different month, but one of these probably late summer months.
Yeah, we got it under July.
Yeah, it is. It's under July now. I'll get that figured out. Whatever makes the most sense for Todd.
By the way, speaking of Todd, and this is a different Todd, you invited him to attend our January meeting, so you might want to add that to the January list.
Right. Correct.
Oh, good
Yes,
point.
I'll get that on there. August. Yeah, kind of similar stuff.
Yeah, I think that's when the RFPs will be.
Yeah, so I'll add something in there about a discussion on that topic. We got
when do you have to have the contract signed?
December 31st of 2024. No, it would have to be. I mean, I guess that's the latest it could be, but.
But we need the rates for next year set by.
Right, set by November at the latest. So yeah, realistically, you would need to get. Maybe not signed, but through the council process to be signed by November.
Really, that late?
I think at the latest. I think that could still work, but probably September or October would be what we would target. Again, I'm thinking the RFP goes out summer. Then you've got a month for if you want to do interviews with any of the applicants, review proposals, and then basically another month for the contract to go through council. So I'm it should be 2 months 3 months.
and referred out.
Right.
The last time we went through this, we had some of the contractors that responded, some of the businesses gave us options, and that went through committees twice, as I recall.
Okay, interesting. All right. Well, I'll have to go back and look and see what their schedule was the previous year, but I thought it was a summer RFP release, and then that would provide enough time to get any questions answered.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So yeah, September's sustainability focus meeting. So this will be kind of Phil running the show here on some topics.
I would move the salt reduction efforts to November or December. You've had the guy that in October.
Yes, yeah, that's probably a little early. Got Leafs to promote at that point. So October, got the recycling calendar, potentially a fall outreach event. We'll see. Maybe another update on the sustainability plan.
That'll be the 2025 recycling calendar.
Yes. Yep.
And the 2025 calendar of events.
Yep. Yeah, and I kind of got that in there for November. 2024 annual report, 25 calendar of events, holiday recycling guide.
You have it in October too, Ben. It's the last one.
Yes, I do. So we'll get that cleaned up. No meeting in December. Again, I'll send this out as a Word document to everyone along with the annual report for comments, and then I can get those worked in for the next meeting.
Thanks for doing this.
Absolutely.
Yep. Thank you, Ben.
All right. I guess
Okay.
that's the calendar.
Great. Thank you. Well, we're running 20 minutes behind, so hopefully we can get it caught up here.
Chris, are you aware that you're the timekeeper?
Oh gosh, I better get busy.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, I've been doing it. So if you want to take over, Chris, that's fine. Or
Sure.
unless you want to wait till next time.
No, I'll do it.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to the next item on our agenda. That's item 4C, to brainstorm for the 2024 annual event for next year. So, I mean, we've had some initial discussions about this already, and just wanted to throw out, see if you might have had any ideas or recommendations on potential things that we could use for the annual event. I mean, last year our annual event was is the e-bike for you. So, so hopefully we can come up with some different ideas this year. Anybody had any thoughts? I mean,
I still kind of like that idea of the kind of bike tour that was kind of brought up last year.
Stormwater basins.
Yeah. That's something that could be. I mean, even if it was like a joint event with the bike committee, if they'd be interested in kind of teaming up with that one. I don't know. I thought that was kind of a neat idea.
Okay. Another one, couple of that I thought of was maybe, since we have a lot of multifamily housing being developed in Fitchburg, and a lot of those housing are being, younger people are living in those buildings, is to maybe start trying to figure out maybe engaging the multifamily residents and energy conservation. Maybe a lot of the younger people today don't know really much about light bulbs, things to place in your showers to help, reduce the water flow, things like that. Maybe have something that we could, show those residents in those multifamily homes how to conserve energy in their homes, or their apartments. Because it seems like always the focus has been on the construction of the building and the owner of the building. But really, it's the residents inside the building that are using the energy. So, what can they do inside to help conserve energy, and reduce their electrical or energy bills? I don't know, what kind of workshop we could have or an event. That could be maybe one of the smaller events that we do, where we have somebody come in and demonstrate certain things or features, or how to conserve energy in your home or apartment.
That'd be great.
And another one is also maybe having something on electrical chargers. My wife just purchased electrical EV car last week, and we've been going through all kinds of different ways and looking at different options to have electrical charger placed in your home. So that might be something. Again, that could be a smaller event, or you educate people on the types of chargers, what they do, how much they cost, what do you have to do to get them installed, and things like that. And we could have a couple of vendors come in to talk about that. Like Chris and Kim, that might be something for a smaller event we could do, like the PFAS that we did.
Yep.
I mean, if you could have dealerships bring an electric car to check out, that could be a cool thing as well. So for people that are thinking about buying one.
Yeah, we did that a couple years ago, didn't we, Phil? At the library.
Yes.
So MG&E puts it on. MG&E does they do a EV 101, and I don't even know if we're a co-host. Maybe we are a co-host, but we've been involved with those. There's been at least, I think, what now, Diane, maybe 2 or 3 events.
At least 2 that we've been involved with. I think MG&E does it every year.
They do it every year in Madison in conjunction with a Saturday farmers market, but then we had one here a couple of years back.
They did it the first time in Fitchburg in the parking garage for the library.
Mm-hmm. That was our first one, and then the second one we had outdoors was a couple of years ago. It was I want to say that was the summer of 2021, because it was after COVID and it was outdoors, so that rings a bell. But yeah, we could. I mean, I think it's always a well-attended event, and it's always informational, and that's an evolving market. So, things are changing constantly. I'm an EV myself, but always learning more. I learned a lot at that event as an EV owner. So,
there are a lot more EV cars out there now too than a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So
it would be really helpful, and I don't know if this is beyond RCC's ability, but I hear from people who live in apartments that whoever owns the apartment building won't let them put a charger in the parking garage. And I don't know how that hurdle can get overcome, but that's an obstacle for apartment dwellers to getting an electric vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, more of the retrofits, Diane, or is that not happening at new construction?
I haven't heard about it happening at new construction, but I don't really know how the electrical part of it works. I don't know if the owner of the building doesn't want to get stuck with the electric bill for charging the vehicle. I mean, if there are chargers out there that can be charged and billed just to a specific tenant, I don't know if those options are there. If they are, that would be nice to make that known.
Well, there are charging companies out there that install them, and you just pay that company. So
it's not the installation; it's the actually paying for the charge.
Well, yeah, you pay the company that installs a charger. So like EV or Across America or something like that, or Electrify America, some of those things, they'll install it. You just swipe your credit card in front of the charging machine, and it just charges up your car for a certain time period.
So then I think you're talking about the difference between a publicly accessible charger versus if you have an apartment building where specific spaces are dedicated to certain units, then putting a charging port on one of those units. And the difficulty there in doing it as a retrofit is that you'd be adding essentially a new sub meter in the basement there, and the cost of that would be a little bit higher. because yeah, linking that to a specific apartment becomes a bit more complex. So that's where in Madison for, I think, commercial and multifamily buildings that are constructed in Madison now, they have to at least make them EV ready. I don't know if they have to add EV chargers, but at least the capability. There's no requirement like that in Fitchburg right now, but that is how some cities are trying to get ahead of that, or at least catch up.
Well, I suspect if we have an event talking about installing an EV charger, that apartment dwellers will bring this up. So heads up.
Okay.
The other one that I'll mention that's we were planning to do in April of 2020, but obviously that got canceled, was the food waste reduction. And so we had a few different people that were going to come and speak about how you can reduce your food waste, including someone from a restaurant. Then we also had a curbside composter coming to potentially pick up your organics. So, and then there was one other speaker that I think we had maybe from the UW system potentially. So we could revisit that idea as well, because we never had that event. And we were going to hold that at Promega. Promega ended up having that event about a year later, but it was only open to employees only. So, we never really had our public food waste reduction event in 2020, and we could consider that one of the options as well.
I'll also just remind you of the article I sent, I think 2 months ago now, about somebody from Dane County who's very interested in getting out in the community and explaining the tax credits that are available to people, energy saving tax credits. I hope you all have that attachment that I sent. I can't access it right now.
Yeah, I think everybody was on the email, but yeah, that's there. Some of the tax credits that have been added or extended from the Inflation Reduction Act are available. Some they're getting ready to start them next year. So it's a good time to get people thinking about what they can apply for.
Have we had any workshops on solar energy, panels for your home and things like that?
Nothing that RCC or the city has organized since I've been here.
Seems like that would be a good one. Installation of solar panels.
Yeah, that would be good. I know Tony Hartman had the presentation, I think, at the beginning of this year. Maybe again, just bringing in a couple speakers talking about the benefits.
We did have some an event that talked about solar panels, because I remember, and I think we had 3 different installers, or at least 2, because I remember one of them said, you don't want to install solar panels on a roof that needs to be reshingled. You want to wait until after you reshingle them. So that was probably, okay, now I messed up with Professor Tingen's presentation time estimate of when that was, but I'm thinking the solar panel one.
It might have been the same one.
Maybe I was just going to say that maybe that was the same one.
Yeah.
So we have had one, but it might be nice to revisit it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Well, we got some good ideas here. We just need to, if there's any more, we need to just think about who would be a leader for each of these ideas, so to get it moving.
Well, we can talk about it on community outreach. So
okay,
Kim and Sharon and I can meet and talk about these ideas and try to, break down a game plan and maybe bring that back to the January meeting with a little bit clearer, kind of what we think might work well, which ones would be a good smaller event versus which one would maybe be a good annual event, and the timing of those events. And then just, instead of working that out at this meeting, you guys just react to that and we fine tune it from there, and then we execute it.
Okay, that sounds good. All right. Any other ideas or discussion on this topic? If not, we can move on to the topic.
15 minutes
four.
behind.
What's that, Jim? I'm
15
sorry.
minutes behind, so we made up a little ground there.
Okay, so let's move on to item 4D, the Saltwise meeting that Diane and Ben had. Can kind of give a summary of that meeting?
I just, before you start, Ben, I just want to apologize. Chris, I thought in the last meeting, I thought that I mentioned that I was going to get back in contact with Allison about Saltwise ideas. And I guess I didn't. And after listening to part of that meeting again, you said that you were going to brainstorm with your community outreach. And I didn't mean to overstep. I would have invited you to this meeting. I just completely spaced on that. So I connected with Allison and I asked her if she had any other ideas and told her what happened with the ordinance. And she said that she would like to meet with me, and I invited Ben, and I should have also invited you, Chris, so my apologies.
That's all right. No problem.
Do you want to take it from there, Ben?
Yeah, sure. So I can just kind of go over the meeting. We met with Allison Madison. So she's the Wisconsin Saltwise program coordinator. And the general discussion was mostly about kind of public education and outreach. What things she's found effective so far when just trying to get the word out about what kind of harm oversalting can cause, particularly on aquatic ecosystems. So she was able to provide some, I think, really good outreach materials. So we've got some yard signs that I think we're going to plan on kind of putting up just at some strategic locations, like at City Hall, some of the parks, just where people are going to walk by and see it, and maybe take a second just to think and react to it.
Can you pull one of those? Can you pull one of those up, Ben, please?
Yes, I can. Give me a minute here.
While he's doing that, she also mentioned that in January, they have something, I think she called it the Starkwater Brewing Company, an in-person event on reducing salt. I mean, obviously this January is too soon for us to do any kind of planning, but if we're interested in doing an event like that, we could contact her and see what her thoughts are and exactly what the event would entail. She had many good ideas. I thought it was a very productive meeting.
Yeah, if anybody wants to check that out, Starkweather Brewing is in the old Next Door Brewing on Atwood.
That's Starkweather.
Starkwater, I think. Is it Starkwater?
I think it's
Starkweather,
named for the creek.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we thought that these yard signs that Ben's trying to pull up, maybe we'll put one in front of like the entrance to McKee Park and a couple on the city campus. And by the way, Allison is providing these signs to us, so we'll put them on city property throughout in highly visible spots to sort of drive home reducing your salt use. She also mentioned, and I think this is in Middleton, the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts decided to, she did a presentation to the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and they went around after a snow and ice event, after it was over, and swept up the unused salt to be reused. So this is an example of the yard sign. It wouldn't say Lake Wingra. It's going to be more generic than that. And there might be, we probably won't have Fitchburg's logo on it because she's having these printed in mass, but that's what it would look like.
I like it. Nice.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty catchy.
Yeah, kind of a neat graphic. She also provided just some more kind of informational handouts, some signs that kind of are a little bit more, infographics, I guess you could call it. So like this, maybe you've seen it before. It's got the QR code to the website. So I was planning on just putting some of these up around like City Hall, the senior center, that kind of a thing.
We talked about buying space in the Star and putting this both sides in the Star, where people would have time to digest it and read it a little bit.
Yeah. So I think that'd be a great thing for January for the Saltwise month. So yeah, that's kind of the plan with that. She also did provide. Whoops, sorry about that.
No, is this something we could put in our utility bills? A flyer like this or a card?
Or year-end tax.
Yeah, I could ask
Bill?
about that. I could see about that.
Timing of that
Okay.
might be off a little bit. Get it in our tax bill. It'd be good to read.
Yeah.
There you go.
Do people want to read anything in that?
She also sent us or is sending us sort of a template newsletter that we can share with the mayor and with our alders if they want to include it in their newsletter, just explaining that we don't have a zero policy. We just have a safe policy on the ice situation. And anyway, she's going to send that. I don't think she has sent that, but she's planning on sending that. And Ben's going to tweak it a little for Fitchburg's information, and then we'll get it to the alders so they can get it out, hopefully on a timely basis, but no later than the beginning of January. Right, Ben?
Yep. And she did send over a couple PSAs. I think one was produced by the city of Milwaukee, and then there was a couple I think that Saltwise produced themselves. So we've got those to kind of tweak some graphics on and then run on Fact TV, just push out through social media. So that was a nice piece of material as well. And then I think I just mentioned in maybe a couple past meetings that there was some legislature making its way through the assembly regarding basically liability for property owners. So this legislation would have basically reduced liability for any kind of slip and fall accidents that occurred on, like a business's parking lot. If that business contracts with a Saltwise certified service provider, unfortunately, it's kind of stuck right now. The explanation we got was it was introduced by a Republican that I guess does not have many friends right now in the assembly. So there's not a lot of people that want to vote on anything that has this individual's name on it. So I guess just kind of stuck due to politics, of course. And I think there were some concerns like the lawyers were saying, no, your grandma's gonna slip and fall and break her hip, and she's not gonna get an insurance any money from the insurance company. So there's some just kind of stuff like that going on, but
it passed unanimously in committee, but there's no plan to bring it to the floor for a vote because this particular Republican is not in favor in his party.
So that's kind of unfortunate. I think that would have been a big step. I think the liability is one of the biggest reasons. You just dump a ton of salt out on the parking lot. Don't worry about it. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with that, I guess, in the future.
She did say that it's important to let people know that the public know that when they have excess salt, they don't want us to just sweep it certainly not sweep it into the streets or the sewers, but not sweep it and put it in our trash because it'll find its way through the landfill into the waterways. So she said it's important that people understand that you sweep up the excess and then you reuse it. So that's a message that I think we need to really emphasize.
Yeah,
And that
Yeah.
brings us to your article, Ron, right?
yeah,
Which should have been in the Star that we got this weekend.
yeah. It was in there. I saw it. So shovel more.
Yeah. So I think one of the kind of takeaways I got from the meeting was, there's not necessarily one kind of avenue for messaging that she feels works better. It's just kind of a collection of some different outreach avenues. So things like the yard signs and PSAs on Fact TV and social media, and kind of takes a little bit of everything to really effectively get the word out. So that's kind of the game plan with the messaging, is try to spread it far and wide and through as many different vehicles as we can.
One other thing, Middleton also considered an ordinance, or is considering an ordinance, but there is no ordinance in Middleton in place, just Madison. It
Okay.
was a good meeting.
Yep. Very, very helpful.
And one more time, Saltwise month is January. Is that
It's
correct?
Saltwise Week. It's Winter Salt Awareness Week, January 22nd to, actually, it's not even a whole week, to January 26th.
Okay.
And they're going to be doing some social media regarding that. So hopefully she'll share that with us and we can put it on our social media outlets.
Great. Well, thank you. Thanks to you and Ben for attending that meeting with Allison.
Welcome.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 5, old business. 5A, Fitchburg Star 2024 article schedule. Diane, I don't know if you have any plan.
Several things. We let this in 2023, this year, we committed to write 9 articles for the Star. So we need to decide, are we going to do, and actually, before I get into the next question, actually we ended up writing an article every month. So I think we did a fantastic job. That's assuming that Phil is still on target for December. I think we did a fantastic job with our outreach. We need to decide if we want to, what do we want to do for 2024? Do we want to continue with this commitment of 9? I would suggest, if we're going to write articles for the Star, I would suggest committing to 9. And if we write 12, that's great. But let's be conservative on our commitment. I think it's an incredible outreach mechanism. It's unfortunate that not everybody is getting the Star, and I hope that gets resolved. But I'm always pleasantly surprised when I hear feedback from people on articles that have been in the Star. So I'd like to see us continue it. What's everybody's thought on that?
I'm supportive of the 9 articles. I think I also isn't there recently where you can subscribe to the Star online?
I saw that.
Something.
There is, yeah. You can subscribe to the e-edition.
Yeah.
But the people who aren't getting it right now don't see that.
Yeah, that's kind of the catch.
Yeah. I'm in favor of 9 plus.
Do we need to take a vote on this? Would you like to take a vote on this? Do you just want to nod your head and say you're in favor?
No, everybody's shaking their head up and down.
Jim, you probably don't have any idea what we're talking about. Maybe you've seen our articles in the Star. You're not obligated to write an article, but if you do, we have some guidelines that the Star has given us. They need to be from a persuasive standpoint. We have a targeted word count. Anyway, like if you're not comfortable writing an article, you're not obligated to. The topic should have something to do with sustainability. And with that, if we want to commit to 9, I can convey that to the Star. Then the next question is we need topics for January, February, and March. I've taken April. I'm going to write on No Mo May in April. So
Lomo May, or are we going?
Lomo.
well, both.
All right.
I'll do something for March. Probably something.
I can do January or February.
I would mention one topic that we have not, and thank you, Phil, if you're still out there for including the schedule of what we've written articles about. But one topic that I don't think we've covered are small engine, the pollutants caused by small engines like leaf blowers and weed whackers and lawn mowers. So if any of you are motivated in that regard, but otherwise, if you just want to pick a month and come up with your topic later, that works for me. So we still need January and February.
Geothermal exchange, is it right for you?
Are you offering to write that?
Yes, I am.
Great. Which month would you like?
Let's take February.
I'll go January with a topic to be determined.
Great. So that gives us through April. So in March we'll have to catch the second quarter. If you can include that on the calendar, Ben, please.
Yep, March, got it.
Great, thank you.
All right, thanks, Diane. Okay, next on the agenda item is 5B, Regional Recycling Drop-Off Site Summary and Comparison. Ben, you're up on this, and just read all the information you provided. That's pretty interesting. If you want to share it with us, that would be great.
Yes, and I just shared the wrong screen. So let me try that again here.
Thanks for pulling all that information together, Ben.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I will just say, so Todd with Palateri did provide this first document here with just kind of the more cardboard focused overview. So kind of the impetus was for this, it's been something that I think we've discussed a few times is there just seems to be so much cardboard at the recycling drop-off site all the time. So we kind of looked into it, wanted to compare, how much cardboard is being recycled in Fitchburg compared to some other communities that Palateri had some data for. And just to kind of summarize, City of Fitchburg's recycling drop-offs, it's open daylight hours, 7 days a week. There's 10 8-yard dumpsters for cardboard, and they each get emptied 5 days a week. So this was just kind of just somewhat of an estimate of how much cardboard the city is recycling if all 10 of those dumpsters are emptied and full when they are emptied each day. Well, it works out to about 15 tons of cardboard per week. So that's a lot of cardboard.
Yeah.
Kind of eye-opening. So that's where Fitchburg's at with 15 tons a week. We go and we look at we go down to Sun Prairie, and they've got more restrictive hours. It's not open every single day all the time or during daylight hours. They have less dumpsters.
About the same population.
Yep, population is similar. They have less dumpsters, and it's a single stream, so it's any kind of recyclable. So to get the number for Sun Prairie for cardboard is a little bit of a guess, but they were estimating about 4.8 tons, so about a third of what Fitchburg is recycling per resident. Then we've got Middleton. So they have two large dumpsters. They get picked up as needed, so they just call Pelletary when they're full. And this data is pretty accurate since it's just cardboard, and they're coming out to 0.57 tons a week.
And
So
what's the
significantly
population
less.
size?
So
of
that's
Middleton?
kind of interesting.
What's the population size in Middleton?
Middleton, they're 20,000. They're smaller than
Around
Fitchburg.
20. Yeah.
20,000. Yeah,
just a little
like
bit
two-thirds the size. Give or take. So significantly less.
Only open 2 days a week, though, right?
Yeah, their hours are very limited.
Yeah.
And it's always staffed. And it's not open to non-residents. So you have to be a Middleton resident, and they do check. Then you have the town of Oregon. So their hours are very limited. Just Saturdays in the morning. They kind of have the same setup as Middleton, where they just have the two large dumpsters, and then they just call and get it picked up when it's full. And they're at about 2 tons a week. So again, significantly less. And now town of Oregon, I don't have a population for the town of Oregon, but it's a lot less than the city of Fitchburg. So that,
And can you scroll down to your table that summarizes all that? I think it's easier
Yeah.
to look at the comparison.
Sure. Yeah. Right here. And they do have a number of homes in here. So this is this by year column, and you can see it's pretty staggering. Fitchburg clearly recycles more cardboard than any other community, by a large margin. And again, these are all, these aren't exact numbers, but just to give everyone an idea, clearly there's a huge difference between Fitchburg and these other communities.
I think you can see that the curbside pickup, at least Middleton and Fitchburg's very close in tonnage. Sun Prairie, it's hard to tell because it's commingled, but we've danced around the Fitchburg drop-off site and to having it staffed for a number of years because of illegal drop-offs and contamination. And I think that this makes a great case for how we could save money and offset the cost of staffing that site. And maybe it's not open, 7 days a week. Maybe it's only open 3 days a week. But we're clearly, I guess on the good side, somebody's cardboard is getting recycled, but on the other side, I don't think it's Fitchburg residents, and we're the ones paying for it.
Yeah.
We do advertise ourselves as Wisconsin's recycling leader.
Well, for cardboard, that might be true.
That's probably true. Yeah.
You want to write an article about that for the Star?
Yeah. Once that article goes out, you'll see that number double.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to Diane's point, Todd did mention that Fitchburg is the only non-staffed drop-off site. You go around to these other sites, there's someone there, checking IDs, telling people where to go, what goes where. So that, I think that's really the reason why you see this discrepancy is people are coming to Fitchburg from all over to drop off their cardboard. And that we've got the camera in place at the recycling drop-off center, which is really good for catching people that are dropping off things that they shouldn't be, like tires or appliances, things that don't belong. But for figuring out who's a resident versus non-resident, the camera doesn't really help for that.
I thought it was interesting in your a table that's a little bit further down that one of the cities, and I don't remember which one, allows non-residents to use their drop-off site, but they just have to pay X dollars for a sticker for a year or something like that. I thought that might be an interesting compromise if we decide that it's time to staff our site, but we want to allow other people to use it. Just charge them an annual fee.
Yeah, and I think it was Middleton maybe that has that option. Also here, and I'll go back up to the top, but the city of Brookfield, they I guess allow anyone from Waukesha County to recycle cardboard and paper at their site. So there's 100 different recycling drop-off sites, and there's 100 different ways of doing things. So there's a lot of different variation. But I did just want to kind of compare Fitchburg's site to other ones in Dane County and a few in just other areas in Wisconsin that have kind of a similar population. As we discussed, almost all the sites are staffed. Really, the only ones that aren't staffed are just collecting brush and yard waste. For sites that are collecting any kind of metals, electronics, what name you, those sites are staffed. And I think one of the benefits that you get is you can collect, I think, more things. So right now, the city couldn't collect electronics because there'd have to be a fee associated with it. But if it was staffed, you could have people bring in TVs or other electronics, pay a fee, and then the city could add that to their list of accepted items. So that's another benefit outside of preventing the illegal dumping. I think you get to provide more services at the site.
Ben, did you put together how much it costs us to have Pelletier empty those roll-offs or whatever they're called?
Yeah, that's I think the big thing that's missing is the cost. How much is this costing us every week or every month?
Right. So I want to say in the contract originally, all those services were provided for basically like a nominal cost just to put something on the bid worksheet, like $1 or something. But then there was a change order a couple of years ago, I think in 2021, that added 2 8-yard dumpsters, and that change order cost like $10,000 a year, something in that ballpark. So really, if it wasn't for those 2 extra dumpsters.
What about when I think while you were here, we had them come an extra day or 2 days a week to empty them? Wasn't that also a change order, and didn't that cost more?
It's always been 5 days a week. So it's 5 days a week in the original contract. And it's been.
Yeah, because during the pandemic, it was just so overrun all the time because people were getting more shipments than normal, and it was just craziness. But if the cost to us is only, I'd be interested in what the inflation of the entire contract is for doing a service like this, because staffing a site and the logistics of having to issue permits and maintain that database, and that's a lot of staff time, and there's a real cost to having someone to have to staff the site on a regular basis. I think the question then, like, is it worth the cost, or should we just continue? I don't know. There's a different cost benefit analysis there.
There is, and that's why you see all these sites that are staffed typically have a lot fewer open hours.
Yeah.
So it's kind of what's that balance where we're, the city's still providing a service where, people can actually get to the recycling drop off and have it work with, everyone's different schedules, but also not having to staff it 40, 50 hours a week. There's definitely going to be, some cost savings, just with not having to dispose of the illegally dumped items. So some of that we cite people and make $187 or whatever it is for the illegal dumping. But there's other stuff that, doesn't get caught that has to get, disposed of properly, and that costs money.
I think it would be helpful to collect all of that together so that we would look at how much potentially we could save. And as far as stickers, rather than having stickers, and I can't, when we lived in Madison, I can't remember exactly how Madison did this, but I think you just show your driver's license. And if it's got a Fitchburg driver's license, I mean, that doesn't cost the city anything. So what could possibly cost the city something is if we allow for a fee non-residents to use the site.
Yeah, and there's places doing it both ways where you have to buy a sticker, or like you said, you're right, Madison, they just check driver's license. So there's kind of some different ways of doing that, and maybe you can generate some more fee by having those non-resident stickers or something, or a non-resident permit. But
the problem that we ran into when we discussed this several years ago is with brush contractors. For example, if I hired somebody to, I don't know, trim some trees or cut down some trees, rather than I could take it to the drop-off site. Well, maybe I couldn't because it's only supposed to be brush. But let's use something as an example. They're taking my brush to the drop-off site where I could do it for free, but they're not a resident, so they couldn't. There's a snag there that, we could maybe see how other cities are handling that, or just say that commercial operators can't use our drop-off site.
Right, and that's kind of been the message. If someone hires a landscaping service and they generate all this yard waste, they're really not supposed to be taking it to the recycling drop-off center. So that's kind of the policy now. But it still happens pretty frequently. If no one's around, they just get in and dump it and leave. But that's certainly an issue that should probably be worked out.
I know that Todd Bolenbach from Pelletieri has some thoughts on this, and we invited him to attend our January meeting, so maybe we can listen to what his thoughts are and revisit this again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I think that would be good.
And in the meantime, Ben, in your spare time, maybe you could pull together those costs.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get that put together. And
the other thing that I think would be concerning, though, is because we're going to an RFP for recycling next year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because my concern would be that Pelletieri is really going to increase their bid if they know they're incurring all this cost for us to pick up all that cardboard. I just don't know if that changes the calculation for Pelletieri when they bid.
Well, I think we can get that information from Todd. I mean, we can ask him how much is incorporated into our contract. I think he would be honest with us.
Yeah.
One thing I don't understand, I mean, I buy along with all of this conversation. I think these are all good thoughts. It seems like this is getting picked up 5 days a week, right? So Monday through Friday. Is that how we understand it?
Yep.
So it's getting picked up every day, every single dumpster out there. And it would seem to me that most residents would use this maybe on a weekend. Maybe I'm wrong about that. but I'm just curious day to day, like it says sometimes they're overfilled. Well, I'm sure after a weekend or, around the holidays, they're overfilled, but I'm just wondering, are we picking up half full or nearly empty dumpsters, like on a Tuesday or any given Wednesday, Thursday, like wondering if what would it look like if we just tried out like 3 days a week and did Monday, Wednesday, Friday and cut out the Tuesdays and Thursdays, or did it on Mondays and Thursdays. It's just, I'm just thinking like the frequency. I'm just, I know that there's some estimation going on here, but it's like sometimes they're full and sometimes they're not as full.
Right, and you're right, because they're not, they don't take these dumpsters anywhere. They get, lifted up and dumped into the truck. So they're dumping them all, whether or not they're, maybe there's a couple pieces. So they're not 100% full every time that they get dumped. But I don't know what happens if you go to 3 days a week. Do you come in the next day and there's a giant pile of cardboard next to the dumpsters or what? So I think that would be, something we could try out.
I mean, we're surviving every weekend when, we know people are dumping Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then Monday, like it's not like we have all this cardboard, I mean, we might have some overfilling and they might be a little full on those days, but, that's when I would expect us to be fullest is on Mondays. But then the other days of the week, it seems like 2 or 3 days, like it might be sufficient, but, we would base kind of everything on, what we're seeing on Mondays, which is probably always pretty bad.
Pelletary provides us with weights of cardboard picked up. So they must be weighing it when they take it back to their site. So can Todd give us the weights by day for maybe a month so we can look at that?
We could certainly ask, yeah.
Yeah, if that's all they're picking up and they're going back, if it's like one trip and we're not going and picking up, cardboard for somewhere else. But if that's the situation, it would be nice just to see what those weights are by day and, use that to help us make decisions if we want to try to look at reducing, if that's one of the options on the table here.
Sure. I guess just going back to this list, some other things I included on here in this other column were just what they do for brush and yard waste pickup. I know that's another conversation we've kind of had and something that we'll be looking to address in this RFP, make sure that, we've got everything included in the RFP that we want as far as services. Most of these communities are picking up leaves either with a vac truck or some other method like a bobcat or a front end loader pushing them into a compactor. That's another method. But it's very common. Brush collection is a little bit more varied. So there's communities that really don't have brush collection at all.
By the way, on the city of Stoughton, Todd told us that they have a vacuum truck to pick up their leaves.
They do. They've got a nice one. The vacuum piece is basically remote controlled, so you can kind of control where the suction end is from inside of the vehicle. So that's pretty slick operation they've got there. The benefit is you need less people involved. Otherwise, someone has to be outside with the vacuum end, from what I understand.
Well, if you're on the phone with Pelletary, Ben, you could ask them why they didn't pick up the yard waste today.
Well, they have all week to pick it up. Ron.
Oh, they do? It just
Yeah.
says the 13th. Okay.
Yeah, they have.
They picked it up on that day.
You just have to have it out. But based on what I've seen walking around, I'll be stunned if they get this all picked up in 1 week.
Okay. I thought it was just that
Yeah,
day.
we sometimes.
It's highlighted on our calendar, not the week.
Yeah, it's a full week. You're supposed to have your stuff out by that day. You know, typically they're in on the Monday for us, but mine didn't get picked up today either.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's, I think something else we'll discuss is increasing the number of yard waste pickups, maybe adding another one in so you can have 3 in the fall as opposed to 2 in the fall.
Yeah.
And maybe you could eliminate 2 of the brush pickups. You could have 12 brush pickups instead of 14. So you eliminate 2 brush, add 1 yard waste.
And when we have that discussion, if you could give us the information from Pelletieri by pickup, so we can tell which pickups are utilized the least, that would be helpful.
Oh, sure.
And,
Yeah,
and
we did.
Since we're talking about this, when I was walking my dog today, most people, I'm very pleased to say, are using the reusable bags or the paper bags for their yard waste. But there was one house that I walked past that had 30 to 40 plastic bags full of leaves. And if we're not, we know that Pelletieri is not going to be getting a vacuum truck. We're the only city that they're picking this up. They're not going to do that. And if Fitchburg doesn't do that, and I would like to see Fitchburg say, we'll only pick up paper bags. We'll only pick up if it's in paper bags or reusable bags, no plastic bags. I mean, we've got to cut down on the amount of plastic that's being wasted.
Right. Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that? I mean, if we do that, we can start the education process soon, because we've got April yard waste pickup again. So just let people know, we're committed to the environment and we're trying to reduce plastic bag use, and we won't pick up yard waste in plastic bags anymore.
Do people know about the reusable bags? Because my neighbors didn't know about it. They saw my bags out there and they were asking, well, where did you get those bags from? They said you get a free one from City Hall that you can buy the other ones for $1 or something like that. So they were surprised.
You still have those, Ben?
Yeah.
What's that?
Got a few bundles left, but people come in and grab them. I bet we've sold it.
I think that's a pretty well kept secret. We've tried to promote that, but I think especially if we decide that we're not going to pick up from plastic bags, yard waste in plastic bags, that's another promotion that we could do for pick up a bag at a reusable bag. Then they could put it in. Some people put it in what used to be their trash can. I mean, as long as it's reusable.
Yeah.
So I know I'm not Chris and the timekeeper, but we are way over time, and maybe we can shift on to a topic. And I don't want to stifle the good discussion, but we went way over on that.
I was just about to jump into Jim.
About to make an announcement.
All right.
Well, we can move on.
All right, let's move on to the next item. Council update. Gabriella?
Yes, I have 4 items for you. First, the budget amendments from the council are going to be voted on tomorrow night. There is a public hearing at the beginning of the council meeting at 7:30 p.m. for anybody that wants to comment on any of the budget amendments, or speaking, there are 18 budget amendments. You cannot submit anything on the floor, so it's only those ones can be amended, but it's going to be those items that are discussed and nothing else. And then after those amendments are done and if we meet levy limits, we'll adopt the 2024 budget by a vote. Second thing, the new police facility that's planned, it's in design right now, it's in the early design phases. We're going to have our first public information meeting on November 27th. It's a Monday night at 7 p.m. It's going to be at the Wyndham Gardens. So if anyone's interested and able to come, it'd be great to have some people there that have a sustainability focus in mind. Jim, with your expertise in geothermal and things of that nature, it'd be great to have your input at some point on a police services building. But yeah, that first
I would hope that geothermal or similar technologies are at least considered in the process. And I know that we've done geothermal for the public library, and I think for one of the fire stations. So just my point of view is if we advocate for geothermal exchange in our public buildings, it would help if we understood what the performance was in our past efforts to make sure that we can convey that economical, environmental payback time, coefficient of performance, and similar. So I'll leave that to a future agenda item, but it'd be really nice to know how our existing facilities are performing in terms of geothermal exchange.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We talked a little bit about sustainability at the police station last meeting, but pretty much everything's on the table at this point. And we do have a preliminary design in mind, but obviously it's all about the budget and staying within the budget. But I think there's a discussion about what we have to do now because we can't do it later, and what maybe is a nice to have that we can add in after the fact that might be able to keep us within budget.
Gabriella?
So anyway.
Gabrielle,
Yes.
what's the $6 million budget item that's being proposed?
For the budget amendments?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Alder Wheeler put in an amendment to increase the police budget by $6 million.
Oh,
for the building, specifically for the building.
Okay. Would that include sustainable features then, or?
It's just an overall increase to the budget.
Well, that's a lot of money. It seems like $6 million. So.
It is a lot of money.
Covering. I guess I have to listen in to find out what it's covering.
Yeah, it's more general because at this point the design isn't solid. So it's just a general. My understanding of the amendment is that it's a general. The contention of the amendment is that it's going to cost more anyway, so we should just increase the budget now before the design is final. I think is the idea behind the amendment.
Okay.
And then. So yeah, again, just one more. The police facility is November 27th at 7 p.m. if you all can come. And then one note, Madison Metro is in discussion about the north-south bus rapid transit line. We're kind of in the early planning phases of that. They did a presentation at the Transportation Transit Committee meeting back in October, which was really interesting, and we had a good discussion about it. And they had a public meeting last week, I think on November 9th, where they presented like the idea to a Fitchburg audience specifically. So both the Transportation Transit Committee meeting in October and that Madison Metro meeting are available online if you want to kind of get, but the grand scheme of things, this is very, very early stages. We wouldn't see an opening of a bus rapid transit north-south line until probably 2027 at the earliest, but obviously the planning has to start now, and we have to have those conversations about whether we wanted to extend further down Fish Hatchery, which I think the Transportation Transit Committee is very in favor of, but that's also dependent on their plans and the budget and how much we want to spend as a municipality. So interesting conversations. And then the last small note, just from a personnel standpoint, Public Works is on track to be, I think, fully staffed for the first time since I've been around the city. But I think the last few positions were hired, and I think are going to start in December sometime. But
December 3rd.
Yeah, everyone's looking forward to that day. So good job, Ben. Good job to the Public Works Department for finally making it. It's been a long road, I know, to get there. So exciting.
Now keep everybody.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Should be the easy part.
Thanks, Gabriella.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to agenda item 7, staff and commissioner update. Ben on solid waste.
Yeah, we'll go pretty quick here. Refuse recycling calendar is finalized. Was able to get that QR code on there for the Pelletary app. Solid waste accounts are all up to date. All the new houses have been added. And we've got the holiday string recycling now available at City Hall. So let's jump into stormwater here. So we had
Ben, before you jump into there, there's nothing on the recycling and refuse calendar that talks about putting your yard waste in plastic bags, is there? Plastic bags aren't mentioned? I mean,
I
if it
don't
is,
think
could you
there's
take
any
that out?
specific reference to a bag type. I think it
Okay.
may just say bags in general,
Okay,
but I'll double check that.
okay, thanks.
So we had a kind of a erosion control audit of different construction sites in the Madison area. That was pretty interesting. In general, it looks like sites are generally following their approved erosion control plans. So it was just kind of an interesting thing to go out to some different sites. Staff is also doing some field work for a potential stream bank stabilization project through the Yarmouth Greenway. So if anyone's done any trash pickups through there, maybe you've noticed that the stream bank there is pretty heavily eroded in spots. So we're working with the DNR to kind of put a plan together to rectify some of those issues. So we're looking at just some basic stream bank stabilization practices, adding in some heavier riprap just to prevent the scour of all that soil in some particular locations. So that's kind of an interesting thing coming through.
Does that mean you got the grant?
No. So we're presenting this project in December at a Yahara Winds meeting. And we'll be looking to get some funding from Yahara Winds. So we'll know more about what they can offer probably in January.
Okay.
Got the 2024 stormwater pond dredging project going out to bid pretty soon. So all the bid package has been complete. City is going to be targeting the West Harlan Hills Pond and the Northern Lights Pond. So the West Harlan Hills Pond, it's in Harlan Hills. It's just off of the Seminole Highway. And then the Northern Lights Pond is by Swan Creek Park. There's two ponds there, just right next to Cyene Road. It's the southern of the two ponds and smaller of the two. So those are the two ponds the city will be looking to dredge next year. And we've got the Area H sod farm. So this is a proposed regional retention basin off of West Clayton Road, where there's the current sod farm or the Sodfather sod farm. This would be a regional basin providing peak rate and water quality controls for the Uptown area, as it's called. So this is kind of by Central Park Place in this latest Nine Springs plat. So it's kind of by Phoenix or Shine and those other apartment buildings like the Osprey, the Hawk, Calm the Bird apartments. So in that area is what this pond will be treating. And it's pretty much finalized. Just waiting to get some permits in hand, and looking to get that constructed in 2024.
Hey, Ben, maybe our next meeting in January, could you provide us on some updates on the hard tongue development and the stormwater issues there?
Sure.
Kind of like to know what's going on out there. So
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all I got for stormwater.
thanks. Bill, you're up for sustainability.
All right. Trying to really just do a quick recap of what's bulleted in the agenda already. I mentioned the planning team for the sustainability plan is going to start meeting in December. We've got about 20 people right now. We'll see how many of those 20 are able to meet with the dates that we've actually picked. Tuesday evenings, the second week of the month, I think. But yeah, hopefully we can get at least a dozen people that are able to stick with us for the whole 6 or 7 months. The ongoing solar inverter issue is getting close to being resolved. We filed a number of claims through Arch Electric, our operations and maintenance contracted company, with Huawei. Jim, just to catch you up really quickly, we had 11 inverters installed on our roofs in 2017 as part of a 360 kilowatt capacity solar project. 7 of those 11 inverters, well, 6 of the 11 inverters have failed, and one of them has failed twice. So we've gotten several inverters replaced under warranty. Some of them still have not been replaced, and that's because Huawei is leaving the United States operations entirely because of a number of sanctions from the US government over privacy concerns, data integrity, things like that. So once they announced they were going to be leaving, they sort of stopped honoring warranty claims. We filed some claims to recover lost costs of potentially having to replace the inverters, the lost electricity value, and additional maintenance costs from Arch Electric. They didn't really respond to those. We got essentially a claims advisor through Huawei who told us, here's the standard offer that we're giving everybody. There's a flat rate that we're paying people back for extended warranties they purchased, and that was, I don't remember exactly how much, maybe $900 per inverter, and then a much smaller amount based on how many inverters that we have in service, and assuming a 1% failure rate and a certain cents per kilowatt hour. We told them, well, our failure rate's like 75%, but that didn't it didn't break their hearts. So what we're looking at is probably about an $11,000 refund if we accept this. I'm working with Chad and Valerie to get this onto the council agenda for the 28th. Essentially, our options are accept this offer, and then that closes the books on it, and then we have to pay to buy new inverters to replace the ones that are dead, plus any future inverters that die. Or we reject it, and we would really only do that if we thought we'd file a lawsuit. And barring awareness of some kind of class action, it doesn't sound like going alone against an international company that doesn't even operate here anymore is very appealing to our legal. So it's not a great resolution, but at least there will be a resolution. We can move forward with the rest of the issues we're having on those. For what it's worth, the inverters on the East Fire Station working great. We just got a bad batch from Huawei, so that's unfortunate.
How much does an inverter cost, Phil?
Depending on the size, what Arch Electric recommended was, so like on the library, we have all 3 inverters in the library are non-functional right now, so the library is not actually generating any electricity we can use. So those 3 30 kilowatt inverters could be replaced by 350 kilowatt inverter, or 2 50s, so we'd have 100 replacing 90. And those 2 would cost $6,000 each, plus then there'd be installation costs from Arch Electric. Yeah, it's not ideal, but we need to get these up and running again. If we had to put $30,000 into, in the end, all the added electricity costs plus buying new inverters, we're probably talking about taking our payback on the whole project from 11 years to like 14. It's not like it suddenly becomes a losing money venture. It's just going to take a few extra years now to pay off this extra investment. And then hopefully the rest, all of the ones that they send us as replacements, keep working because we don't have a warranty on them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're closer. I know I've been talking about this for over a year now because it started last year in July with squirrels chewing on the wires, but we're getting closer to that being resolved.
Yeah.
B-Cycle, we did a little bit more expansion in October, got a few more city sites in there. So there are now 3 locations technically on Civic Campus. We've got the library, we have the senior center, and then between the community center and City Hall, we got Dolly Bike Hub, we got Swan Creek Park, McGaw Park. So we're slowly but surely expanding B-Cycle around all of Fitchburg next year. And this is after we had already added the McKenzie Regional Workforce Center and Boys and Girls Club over on Genuine Drive. Next year, we're looking to add in I know we won't have the North Fish Hatchery Hub done by the end of next year, but I'm hoping we can get that station in as soon as possible. We're looking at getting something on the west side of Verona Road over off of like Anton Drive, somewhere between Williamsburg Way and King James. Yeah, just keep spreading it out there. Oh, and then get one or two over in Southdale neighborhood would be is ideal as well. But
Phil,
we have
do you
another.
Do you get usage information?
We do. So we'll get an annual report from B Cycle, and then I wrote into our contract for this phase 2 expansion that I at least want to get raw data from them once a quarter. They don't really have a person dedicated to just data, so it's a bit of a lift for them to compile that and send it out. But at least the initial data that we got for our phase 1 portion of B Cycle, I think we had 6,000 total rides over the summer from those 7 stations. I might be overestimating, but I think it was around 6,000. And we're getting like 8 a day at the Oak Bank location, down to just under 3 a day at the Limerick senior housing over on Lacey Road.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
So Ben, in phase 2, well, I mean, Phil, in phase 2, will the expansion include the north part of Fitchburg?
Yeah, so that would be the North Fish Hatchery Hub. And then also the Boys and Girls Club is North Fitchburg. There have been discussions with a couple of companies that are in North Fitchburg, and they haven't really gone anywhere yet. But we do have the Wyndham Hotel at Hatchery Hill. We've got Hatchery Hill Park. And then we want to get up to, so that Hatchery Hill Park has us close to not just that park, but also like the Thirsty Goat and the Fitchburg Family Pharmacy and those complexes there. North Fish Hatchery Hub extends us a little bit farther north, and then there's a few more businesses around there that we could discuss, but that gets us close to some commerce there, as well as right by the Cannonball Path and that whole network of trails. And then if we get over to Southdale, that's high up on our list is making sure that we get Southdale and connect them as well.
Right.
And then that would connect us to the Madison network through a different route, because we're already connecting closer to Madison, going up Fish Hatchery. But then they also have stations at the Sheraton over on John Nolan Drive. So if there's a little bit safer biking route to get sort of across Rimrock, across the Beltline, then you could get from Southdale either into Fitchburg or up to John Nolan in the Madison system. So that would be a really nice connector there. I know that Madison's looking at, Southdale has kind of been in terms of cycling, safe cycling routes, Southdale's been a bit isolated. Getting across the Beltline, there is a pedestrian and bike bridge there, but then you get to a couple roads like East Rusk Avenue, I think it is, and Badger Road, that they're bikeable, but they're not really designed to be. They're only bikeable because the traffic's not as bad there, but the roads aren't particularly accommodating. And it's the same thing coming down County Road MM towards, my mind is blanking on, but coming down County Road MM is also not the friendliest. So we're looking at some improvements there. Madison's looking at improvements up towards Rusk and Badger. Yeah, Southdale would get us into North Fitchburg as well.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, moving on to the next one. This is something that kind of came up suddenly, so I don't know if I even discussed it at the last meeting. But MG&E filed with the Public Service Commission essentially to change how they do net metering and purchasing back excess solar production from customers. And there's really not much to say because the PSC rejected it, so nothing will change. It is still going to be the case that if you generate excess solar, as long as you, throughout a 12-month period, as long as you buy more than you're selling back, as long as you're a net purchaser, anything excess that you sell back to MG&E for use in the grid, you will sell back at retail prices. So if you'd be buying electricity at 7 cents per kilowatt hour, you'd sell it back at 7 cents for that, whatever 15-minute increment. They were trying to change it so that you'd sell it back at their wholesale rate, so more like 2 or 3 cents per kilowatt hour, whatever they're buying from the MISO market. But nothing's going to change, so that's very encouraging. I think there was at least one more utility around the state that was trying to do a similar change, and one would think if the PSC rejected it for MG&E that they probably will keep the net metering in place across the state, which is really encouraging. And then I got a chance to tour McFarland has a new public safety building kind of over on the east side of McFarland where they're expanding more. That houses their police department and their fire department, They're expecting it to be net zero energy, so it's just really cool to tour that building and see some of the improvements they've made there. Extensive use of solar and ground source heat pump. Yeah, so it's good inspiration for our public services building. There's a couple other things I have in here that I didn't get into the bullet points, so I want to get into those. I did, so regarding the cost for the public services, the police services facility that we're designing in Fitchburg, I did research some possible grants and credits, and I sent those to the design team. So, they kind of showed us at the last meeting that they're going to have sort of a pick list of here are the different options. Here's what we think they'll roughly cost. Here's what we think the benefits will be. And we kind of get to, we sort of get to fill our shopping cart up to whatever the dollar amount is that's available for sustainable features. I'm hoping that, with things like a 30% solar credit through the IRA, the 30% geothermal credit, that we might be able to get more than they're anticipating in terms of green features. I'm most familiar with energy saving credits, and so I'll have to do a little bit more work to look for things like what kind of credits could we get for permeable pavers or for native landscaping, if anything like that is available. If there's water conservation measures that we could maybe get some credits or rebates, that would be great. But substantial energy saving credits out there, so that was pretty encouraging. I also will be looking to apply for some credits from the IRS for our 2 Ford Lightnings. There is now a sort of a direct pay option available. A lot of electric vehicle credits in the past have been when you file your taxes, but if you're a tax exempt entity like a city, that gets a little bit complicated. So there's now just a direct pay option that we can elect that'll make it a lot easier to get that credit from the IRS. The form's not available yet, but once it is, we'll be applying for that and see what kind of a rebate we can get for those 2 EV trucks. And then the shred recycling event dates. I don't know how much time this could turn into quite a discussion, but there was something that our contact with Pelletieri brought up at the last event. He's seen that the quantity of paper that's being shredded has been decreasing. Technically, our contract with Pelletieri doesn't specify 1 or 2 events. Is that correct, Ben? So he was suggesting dropping the shredding down to 1 event per year, and I would think we would still do 2 e-recycling if that were the case. But Jeff is looking at just doing 1 shred event next year, and so we don't have dates set yet because we kind of need to figure that out. Are we still going to try to do 2 shred events? And he was suggesting that they might charge us for a second one then. Because it just seems like it doesn't seem like he feels that it's justifiable to have 2 with the quantity that we're pulling in.
Can we at least get the April event schedule? Because even if we only have 1.
For sure. Then that's probably the one we would do.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we could definitely get the April one scheduled and then kind of get into negotiating about October and see whether we're going to have both companies or just Resource Solutions. Yep.
Sounds good.
Can we go back to the sustainability plan?
Yeah.
If I'm remembering correctly, at some point you wanted an RCC member to be on one of these committees. Is that correct?
I think it would be fantastic if somebody from RCC wanted to participate in the planning team. Yeah.
So do we need to discuss that, or should we discuss that in January since we're running out of time?
Well, so the first meeting is December, and we kind of want to have everybody who's going to be on the planning team available for that. So it's Tuesday, December 12th. I don't think anyone from the RCC has signed up. I can go back and check the spreadsheet that Ted sent me.
Well, we're all here. I mean,
yeah, I don't. So we do have Josh Nackert has signed up, and Rick Eilertson. So we have people who are, we'll say, RCC adjacent that are going to be participating, but nobody who's currently on the RCC has thrown their name in the hat.
So you don't need to be a Fitchburg resident to participate?
You don't have to be a Fitchburg resident. If you live or work in Fitchburg, or if you're familiar enough with it, I'm also, after Christina Carvalho came and spoke to us last month from Eco-Latinos, Wisconsin Eco-Latinos. Again, she doesn't work or live in Fitchburg, but she's looking to increase their footprint here. and she and I spoke after that event, and then again at the Sustained Dane Summit a few days ago. And she's interested in participating, and I didn't want to turn that down. I'd love to have her perspective. So we encourage Fitchburg residents and workers, but it's not, if we had 50 or 60 applicants, maybe I'd be pickier, but when only 20 people signed up, I don't want to be overly picky. But yeah, if you'd like to discuss it, we certainly can. If any of you are interested, you can also just check your calendars and email me after the meeting. It'll be, again, the second Tuesday of the month, starting in December and going either through June or July next year, and it'll be evening meetings. So the first one is going to be, I think, I'm trying to remember, I think the first and last one are shorter, so 2 hours at the library, and then all of the intervening ones will be 3-ish hours, 5 to 8, just over Zoom or Teams.
So does it overlap council then? The second Tuesday of the month?
You know what?
Is Fact TV recording it? Okay.
It does overlap council. Yeah, so it ended up being the only date that worked for both me and Ted, and that we had a double-digit number of people that had signed up say worked for them. So I was
is
actually
Fact
hoping,
TV still recording, or?
They may not be able to. I'm gonna have to check with Jeremy on that. I didn't even consider that with council.
Yeah, I double check with them.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. We will see.
All right, anything else, Phil?
Coming up on 9 o'clock here, so.
Yep. That's all for me.
Okay, great. Well, we've done it seems like we always come in on schedule, so we got a couple minutes left. Is there anything that on item D, activities being conducted or monitored by the commissioners, anybody working on anything that might be useful they would like to share with us, or any thoughts?
This isn't related to that, but Ron, didn't you want to get people's thoughts on whether we would transition to in-person instead of Zoom?
Yeah, I think we talked about that earlier, that we would, I think Phil mentioned that there's an option of that, you can attend virtually or go to the meeting. So do we want to, take a vote, or how many people would be in favor of having, being at the meeting in January, being present at City Hall versus being virtual? If that would be a problem?
Well, I think we're missing some camaraderie and some synergy. It's definitely much more convenient to meet by Zoom, but just based on the meetings I've had with Pelletieri and with Alice and Madison, there's a lot to be gained by meeting in person. So I guess I think everybody should give it some thought, and maybe shoot an email off to you with their thoughts on that.
I'm in. I go to every meeting in person except for this one, so I'm happy to meet in person.
I'd be in favor of it too. So,
and I can mention what I told Ron before the meeting. The bike committee is the other one that I report to right now, and the chair and one other member show up in person. I usually do, because it just leads right into the work day. The other 3 members call in virtually, and that is supported by Fact TV. There's no, I kind of like this. We don't want to discourage people from participating in committees if they have difficulty getting to City Hall. If you would like to be at the meeting, I guess we haven't talked about it much, but it has been available this whole time. Fact TV is recording. You've seen at the start of meetings, the council chambers are shown there. That room is reserved for these meetings. So starting in January, anybody who wants to show up in person, you're more than welcome to. If it doesn't work, if you're under the weather, you got other commitments with kids, don't feel like you have to, definitely virtual is still an option. But there is nothing stopping anybody from showing up in person. They are still happening, as far as I'm aware. All meetings are still happening in council chambers, rather than the Genie ceiling room.
If it's in council chambers, I think that I don't think that's very conducive to the kind of discussions that we usually have.
We should talk to Ron Ben and Phil, maybe we should talk to Fact TV and see if we can use the Jenny Sealing room, because we use
I
that
can
for
check on that.
transit.
Oh, you
And-
do? Okay. Yeah, I just hadn't gotten an
yeah,
update. I
mean,
know
and personnel.
last time 5 or 6 months ago, I tried to schedule something in Genie Sealing, and I was advised to move it back to council chambers, and I haven't heard an update. But we can look
We use
into
it for
that.
transmission transit. We were
Okay.
the guinea pigs and we still use it.
Okay.
And we can do virtual in that room.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it actually works really well for virtual. It's actually the best
I mean, just roughly kind of
version for virtual in-person
people who would be
synergy,
interested in
so.
attending it live.
In January?
Yeah, in January. Okay, so good. So it looks like most of us would. So it's just kind of weird when you go there and you're the only person and everybody else is virtual. I did that once, so.
Okay, if I go in January and nobody else shows up, I'm not going to be happy.
I will be there.
Thanks, Ron.
Thanks.
All right. Looks like it's 9:00. I want to thank everyone for their time tonight. And so I hope everyone has a good Thanksgiving and a holiday season. We won't meet until January. So look forward to the new year. Anybody else?
Happy holidays. It seems a little early to
Happy
say that, but
holidays.
whatever.
All right.
Thanksgiving's next
Thanks
week.
for being with us, Jim.
All right.
All right.
Pleasure being
Thanks,
here.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Nice to meet you. Those that I haven't met before.
All right. All right. The RCC meeting is adjourned at 9:01.
Thank you.
Thank you.